Hey y'all, it's Shekinah with Spoken Like a True Goddess podcast, a space curated for goddesses worldwide where we embrace our true femininity, elevate our confidence, and step into the beautiful and abundant lives we were destined for. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm just so extremely grateful. 2 months ago to the day was when I uploaded our first two episodes, and I'm just so grateful for the growth that we've had. Every week, you all are consistently tuning in and listening to me yap for 20, 30, 45 minutes. So thank you so much. This is really the highlight of my week. I have to figure out how I could do this full time. But thank y'all so much. Anyways, welcome back to the Goddess Guide to Love series. So last week we explored self-love and how that sets the foundation of all love in your life. And this week we're getting into romantic love, the kind of love that sweeps us off our feet, challenges us, and when nurtured correctly, elevates us to our highest selves. So, whether you're single, dating, or in a committed relationship, understanding love in a goddess way will help you attract and sustain a love that aligns with your true values. So, we're going to break down how to leverage your feminine energy to have more harmonious and enjoyable experiences with men. Feminine energy isn't about appearances, it's an embodiment. So it's about embodying traits like flow, nurturing, warmth, allure, intuition, and receptivity. I believe that all women are naturally dominant in feminine energy. But as life goes on, we can sometimes suppress those traits out of survival and safety. So it's not about becoming more feminine. It's more about unlearning and undoing those habits that block your natural flow. And when we do this, we want to do this for ourselves and for our own soul's progression. I would never suggest doing inner work or healing to attract men because honestly, you do not need to do any work to get a man. In fact, the more toxic you are, the more boyfriends you will have. Okay. I seen something before that said the only thing about healing is that it don't come with no dick. And I'm just gonna leave that there. But seriously, being in your feminine energy, it allows you to be in tune and in flow with yourself. You'll almost have this girl-like innocence to you, but you'll be very magnetic and enticing. True feminine energy cannot be manufactured. So you could get all the fillers and boobs and BBL that you want, but you cannot skip over the embodiment part. When you embody those traits we spoke about, that's when you reach true fulfillment. As women, we sometimes hide away those traits that we naturally possess because in our society, it's viewed as weakness, or it could be viewed as weakness. But hiding or running away from your true essence will eventually lead to burnout and unharmonious relationships with men. I'm naturally a very warm and open person, but once I started getting disappointed by men, I started hiding those aspects of myself. When I first started dating, I was pure and unharmed. So I showed up as my true self. I showed up warm and free and giving. Then I started hating men a little bit. So I couldn't wait till a man got out of line. Like I'll start hearing theme music. Like, okay, now it's time to play. I'm going to make you cry. I'm not going to be the only person crying in this situation. But around 2021, I began a journey of some really deep healing where I really faced a lot of my shadows and I healed and cleared those things that were blocking me from my natural essence. It was a journey, but along that journey, I noticed that when I would get disappointed by men, I was making a conscious effort not to be reactive or toxic. I'll be like, okay, girl, you don't have to react like this because this isn't the type of woman you want to be. So although it was still in me, like that need to get back or hurt someone or be toxic, I was being conscious about it because I was healing. But now I'm at the point, I don't even have the urge to be toxic or to hurt people. I'm going to show up authentically myself. And regardless of how it's received, I'm going to live from my heart. When I got to this point, I noticed that my relationships with men became better because you cannot out masculine a man. Like, you can't be more masculine than him. When he starts to feel challenged by you, he's going to dig deeper into his masculinity. And because it's not your natural state, he's going to always win. By being soft and warm in conflict, it will naturally lower his defense and you'll be able to have resolution. I remember the first guy I dated after I wasn't toxic anymore. And he brought me lunch one day. And when he seen me, he just sat down and he took a very big sigh of relief. And he just hugged me and laid on my chest in silence for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not used to being a man's peace, okay? I'm used to being his chaos. Even recently, I got a good compliment from a man, and he was basically saying that I'm emotionally safe. And that's something he likes about me. That's a trait he likes about me. And that made me very happy because, yeah, this is the type of woman that I've always wanted to be. I don't want to be a reactive woman or a spiteful woman or anything like that. Like, I want to live authentically myself and live from my heart. And it wasn't a compliment about something superficial. This is a compliment about something I have diligently been working on. So it meant a lot to me. And this balance of energy between male and female or feminine and masculine is deeply impactful in romantic relationships. Operating in your feminine energy takes deep trust in yourself. A lot of women are afraid of masculinity, and that's where we get that term toxic masculinity from. There's no such thing of toxic masculinity. Men are naturally dominant in some areas, and women are naturally dominant in some areas. And when brought together, you could be in perfect harmony and balance. The imbalance comes when women are threatened by masculinity and see it more as a competition versus working on your strengths as a woman so that they can complement masculine energy and you can have it all. True feminine energy is not weakness. How I view feminine energy is like the ocean. She's beautiful, she's big, she's vast, she's mysterious. You can marvel at her. She's playful, these great traits. But the ocean is also very powerful, and she can tear some stuff up if she needs to. She knows her boundaries, but she can also cross those boundaries and destroy some things if she needs to. She's very, very powerful, but she doesn't have to live in that state all the time. She possesses it. She has it when necessary. She can use it, but she doesn't have to live in that aggressive state all the time. So that's how I view feminine energy. Yes, feminine energy, we're warm, we're alluring, we're nurturing, but we also have the strength to create, to build, and to destroy. There's also a lot of strength in feminine energy that can complement masculine energy. On this platform, I'm always going to speak to the women. I'm aware how some men behave can cause us to feel imbalanced and unsafe or threatened. But work on yourself so much that those men can't even come into your orbit. There's so much power in true feminine energy, and you don't want to water yours down by being in your masculine. Men are always stressed and on the go and on the move and unsettled. Like, who wants to be like that anyways? When balanced, feminine energy allows for deep self-trust, emotional fulfillment, and meaningful relationships. When it's out of balance, it can manifest as being overly passive, people pleasing, or disconnected from your personal power. And that's where we get confused and think that feminine energy is weakness. No, unhealed or undeveloped feminine energy comes off as weakness, but fully healed feminine energy is strength. These days, we hear a lot of talk about narcissistic abuse. I personally hate that conversation. For one, narcissism is a mental disorder. And I don't think that this amount of men are walking around with undiagnosed mental disorders. But even if they were, poking fun at it or using it as a way to name call, it's not right. It's equivalent to someone who suffers from schizophrenia or borderline personality disorder to be like, oh, this nigga is schizo. Oh, this nigga is da da da. Like, it's not nice and it discourages people from getting the help they need. So that's the first point. But the second point is when it comes to narcissistic abuse, we have to consider masculine energy and feminine energy dynamics because it's not always narcissistic abuse. Sometimes you're just not an energetic match for the man that you're with. And the reason why I bring this up is because I was with a guy and later on down the line, me and the new girlfriend, y'all know how that go, but me and the new girlfriend end up having a conversation. And we were like talking about him. And we were just like comparing just how much of a mess he is. And although he was doing similar things, how she was reacting or felt about it was differently from how I felt about it. And how she handled the situation was different from how I handled the situation. I never considered this guy to be narcissistic. I thought he was a little bit of a B word, but never narcissistic. And she was so adamant, like, no, he's a narcissist, like he's narcissistic. And I'm like, because me and her were different, I felt like his behavior affected her in a different way than it affected me. For me, I consider myself a lion. Okay. So when I'm in relationship with masculine men, it's usually a very healthy balance because you're a lion and I'm a lion. So there's nothing I can do that's going to truly offend you or make you feel threatened because although I'm a lion, you're also a lion. And there's nothing that you can do that's going to truly make me feel offended because we're a good balance for each other. You're not going to take it so far, and I'm not going to be so passive to just let certain things happen. And I got that analogy. One day I was watching the Discovery Channel, and it was a group of lions, female lions, and they were, working together. They had their children, whatever, whatever. All of a sudden, the man lion comes after being gone for days, and he comes and he just starts disturbing the peace. Like he starts picking on the little lion's son and just like disturbing the peace. They were living harmoniously, and here he comes. So the women lions or the female lions, they just start like beating this man lion up, right? Like they was like beating him up like, no, you're not about to come and disturb the peace. And although it looked vicious, you can tell he wasn't threatened by them. Like he didn't feel the need to like fight back. Like, yeah, okay, he was kind of protecting himself, but it's like you could tell he didn't take it as a threat. But from me looking, I'm like, wow, like this looks vicious. And that's what I'm saying when it comes to relationship dynamics. A male lion and a female lion balance each other. They're a healthy balance for each other. But if that female lion got with a zebra, for example, no matter what she did, she will always be a threat to the zebra. Just her sitting there, he will feel threatened by her because she is a lion. So even if she yawns or if her tummy growls, any little thing she does, he's going to take it as a threat because they're not a good energetic match. And vice versa. If the male lion goes with a female zebra, for example, it's going to be so off balance that anything he does, because she may be a little bit more passive, is going to come across as abusive or, oh, you're being narcissistic, or because it's totally imbalanced. She doesn't have the traits to deal with a lion because they're not a energetic match. When I hear people talking about like narcissistic abuse, and I'm not being insensitive, I'm sure that some people are in situations like that. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it's as prevalent as we're hearing about. I think that sometimes that you're just not a good energetic match for someone. I think very dominant men need to be with women who can balance them out, who are not afraid of them, who are not overly passive, who are not trying to people please, but who can bring a healthy balance to their chaos. And I feel that women who are very evolved in their feminine energy and they are not people pleasing, they're not being passive, they also need a dominant man who's healthy in his masculine energy, just so the dynamic is well. So a lot of times these relationships are not narcissistic, they're just imbalanced. So why is feminine energy important in romantic relationships? Feminine energy is important in romantic relationships because it balances the dynamic with masculine energy. It fosters deep connection and emotional intimacy. You can literally have it all with your perfect match. What he lacks, you possess. And what you lack, he possesses. Coming together in perfect harmony, you both can have it all. Once a man feels emotionally safe with you, it's only up from there. Men are not usually used to having that space to be able to express themselves or be vulnerable and things like that. So it may take some time for him to open up. But if you stay constant and open to when he does want to share with you, and they know that even when they're imperfect, you'll still be accepting and loving of them, that's when true connection begins. And when I say imperfect, I'm not saying let someone be abusive towards you or just bring all types of chaos and nonsense in your life and you're just accepting of it. I'm saying like them just being human, making mistakes, knowing that you're not judging them on every single thing that they're doing, and you're being open and accepting and trying to get to understand the why to their behavior. This type of connection takes patience because truly masculine men, they have a hard time turning this on and off. So their typical day to day, they're out, they're doing, they're building, they're in their masculine energy. So it's hard to expect them to instantly turn it off. And now they're able to tell you how they feel and process their emotions very quickly and things like that. So you have to be patient with him, because sometimes when you're trying to pull these like emotions out of him and he's not opening up, it can feel like rejection, and that can feel bad for us. So you have to truly be safe and secure in yourself and your feminine energy, that you can foster this type of environment. And personally, I think that is worth it. Depending on the type of woman you are, it is totally worth it, because from experience, I know that being with men who are not masculine, who are not in their masculine energy, it is exhausting and it is draining. And I remember I was with this guy and I really admired him because he could just work. Like he could work, he can accomplish things. But when I needed to talk to him, sometimes it was like pulling teeth. And he'll be like, Shekinah, I just worked 13 hours. I'm tired. I cannot talk about this right now. Or he'll be like, he can't balance a lot of things like I can. Like he will give me these like, hey, I'm trying, but I was not understanding towards it. So I'm like, you know what, fine, I'm going to find someone better. And like the exact next guy that I dated, initially, I'm like, yes, see, I found someone better because, like, I mean, we would just talk for hours on the phone. Like, he could process his emotions very well and just like his feelings very well. And at one point, I was even like, I didn't know if I liked him romantically because I almost felt like he was like a girlfriend, like a true friend. But I did, like, there was some attraction there. So I'm like, okay, but man, when we were trying to get into a relationship, it was so hard because he was just so soft. Like, he was so soft on the inside, like, just, oh, it was bad. So I think that being patient with a man who's masculine so you can be in your feminine is worth it versus going with a man who is not that masculine because it'll lead to burnout and frustration and it'll just be too imbalanced. So it's worth it. So, how do you embody feminine energy in relationships? Some ways you can do this is by practicing receptivity. So learn to accept love, help, and compliments without feeling guilty or feeling like you have to do something in return. A simple thank you will work. Rejecting a man trying to help is the worst thing that you can do. When they don't know how to help you or don't feel like they can help you or be of some benefit in your life, they're not going to feel useful and they're usually just going to end up not doing anything. So get comfortable with receiving, get comfortable with asking for help. Don't feel weird or like you're being a burden or whatever you may feel. Let him be useful and let him feel needed in your life. Don't be like me, y'all. Me and this guy who I was dating, like we were kind of into it. Like we were having a little, shakiness in our relationship. And Mother's Day was coming up. And earlier we had talked about how, okay, he was going to do a little staycation for me for Mother's Day. Okay, cool. But we were into it and like our disagreement was because I just didn't like how he was showing up in the relationship. Like I felt like I wanted a deeper commitment. And, we were just trying to figure things out. So in the midst of that, Mother's Day's coming up. So he was like, well, I already said I was going to do this and I want to be able to do this for you. Can y'all believe? I was like, no, fine. I know I'm not your responsibility. And, fine. You don't have to do this. He's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? My responsibility. And then to add insult to injury. So not only did I reject him doing this for me, which is something he was like happy to do, he was like planning to do. I went and did it myself. Y'all, it took us a long time to recover from that. So don't be like me. Like, they don't react well to stuff like that. So don't do something like that. Another way is to focus on being instead of doing. So prioritize presence and being present in the moment over productivity or doing something. For instance, allow him to plan a lot of the dates and the meetups and the vacations or whatever the case is. And you focus on enjoying the moment and being playful just by being there, just you being there, you being in a good spirit, being in good energy is enough. So just focus on that, just being present and being in the moment. Also, you want to learn to embrace your vulnerability. Open up about your feelings instead of trying to appear perfect or unbothered or whatever the case is. Sharing your emotions allows your partner to connect with you and understand you on a deeper level, and they'll eventually start sharing theirs. Also, tapping into your sensuality. So this isn't just physical intimacy, but I'm speaking more about connecting with your senses, your feelings. Take pleasure in those small things and just let that energy flow into your relationship. So be so deeply connected to yourself, to your emotions, to how you're feeling. Just be in perfect flow with yourself. And that outpour will allow you to have more enjoyable connections. So let's get into some scenarios, okay? So let's say your partner offers to help you with something. Instead of saying, oh, it's okay, or I'm fine, or oh, it's already handled, no big deal, express gratitude. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you so much. This helps me so much. Oh my God, I love when you offer help. Oh, thank you. This means the world to me. Accept it and be grateful for it. You don't have to shut it down or act like you got it all together. And I'm telling you, once, especially when you're really grateful, like, I mean, me, I'm naturally a grateful person. I really do like acts of service. So if anyone does something for me, I'm so grateful and I don't mind expressing that I'm grateful for it. And I don't know, it feels like it inspires them to do more. I don't know, but try that. And another scenario. So let's say you're feeling disconnected from your partner, or just like the vibes are off, or you all got into a disagreement, or let's say he doesn't have a lot of time right now. Instead of like demanding his time and attention, initiate a heart to heart conversation and go about it with just your feelings. And I noticed that when you go into situations with more of a warmth and a softness, and like you're just trying to resolve and get to a resolution, it's a much better outcome than when you go into it like, oh, like you're so busy, you don't have time for this. And what you mean you can't text back? And da, 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 da. It's like that is not resolution based and is usually not well received. So if you go into it with openness and non-confrontational, you'll usually get much better results from it. Try positive reinforcement. If you're feeling disconnected to your man, if you're not okay with how you all are communicating and things like that, when he does communicate with you, or when you do feel close to him, thank him for it. I just love talking to you throughout the day. I love knowing how your day is going. I feel so close to you when you do this. Just be expressive, and then it'll let him know, okay, this is something that she likes. And it positively reinforces him versus attacking him like, well, why didn't I hear from you today? Oh, it don't take that long to text back, or whatever the case is. Think about the times where they're usually have a better time with opening up, like the guy I was talking about earlier, when I would try to have these conversations with him. And, it's like he's right off of work, like, and at those times it would be really hard to have conversations with him. And he would not budge. So I could talk all I want. Like I'm going to be talking to a brick wall. Like he wouldn't budge. He liked to cook. So I noticed that like when he was cooking and just kind of more in his element, like we would have great conversations and get to great resolutions. So you want to find like that perfect time. Think about like, okay, when is he usually more open to conversations, or when is he usually more relaxed and like in his zone? And usually you'll have a better outcome that way. And also during disagreements, you don't want to argue from logic or control. Like that's more of a masculine trait, and they're going to do that better than you are. That's why you want to express how the situation makes you feel emotionally. Always talk about feelings. When that happened, I felt like this. I don't feel so good when this happens, or this is how I feel. Not so much pointing fingers or rationalizing everything, but just go off of how things made you feel. In our Goddess Guide to Love series, each week we have a weekly challenge. So the challenge for this week is to practice embodying feminine energy. So in one interaction this week, just be very mindful on being feminine. So whether that's accepting help or asking someone for help, being playful, leading with vulnerability, but be mindful, okay, in this situation, I'm going to embody feminine energy. Even take it a step further. If you're not a person who likes accepting help or asking the men in your life for help, ask a man in your life for something this week. Maybe you don't feel like cooking and he could DoorDash you some dinner. Or maybe you can ask him to pump your gas this week or fill up your tank. Whatever it is, just get in the mood of asking and accepting and receiving. And that wraps up this week's episode of the Goddess Guide to Love, embracing your feminine energy in relationships. It's not about changing who you are. It's more about stepping into your natural power, allowing love to flow, and creating deep and fulfilling connections. Remember, your feminine energy is magnetic. It thrives in softness, confidence, and trust. You don't have to chase or force or prove your worth to anyone. Your presence alone is enough to attract the love that you desire and that's truly aligned with you. If today's conversation spoke to you, share it with another woman. I love to hear how you are embracing your feminine energy. If you'd like to share that with me, you can connect with me on Instagram at Spoken Like a True Goddess. Next week, we'll dive into platonic love and the importance of creating authentic connections with others. Until then, keep shining, keep flowing, and we'll talk soon. Bye. That's all for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed. If you love Spoken Like a True Goddess podcast, leave a rating and a review on the podcast app that you're tuning in on. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to follow us on all socials at Spoken Like a True Goddess. Also, if you would like sisterly advice from me, email your questions to sltgadvice@gmail.com. It will be answered on the pod with love and discretion, of course. Well, I'm excited for our next Girl Talk. Talk soon. Bye.